Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Kyle Renke, and I am the COO
Brendan,
of
you're
the David
welcome
Green
to
team. And
join us.
we are here to say hello and welcome. It is Friday, December 9th and 5 p.m. Pacific time. We are live right here and super excited to have everyone here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Zillow's bold predictions of what they have for 2023 and what are things that you can do as a buyer or a seller or an investor to really get yourself ready and put yourself in the best place to succeed for 2023. So super excited to see everyone here. We'll see you on the other end. All right, so let's get this party started. If you can see David right there in the screen, he is chatting with people on Instagram Live, making sure that they all come over here to YouTube to hang out with us. My name's Kyle. As I said, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the David Green team. David and I just got back from a nice 5-day trip in Cabo and had a great time mastermind talking with Rob Abasolo and his chief operating officers that he works with, and also David's loan partner with the One Brokerage. So had a really good time masterminding, chatting a little bit about the future and what we're going to be doing in 2023. Let's say hello to some of the people that are here. If you're watching live, go ahead and drop your name in the chat. Let us know where you're from. We'd love to see where you're from. Brianna, she says she's getting fired up. Love it. Kawai says watching from Washington. Mega from Vegas. Nice to meet you. My man Mickey the Pool Shark saying hello once again. And Joe from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Welcome. Hope everybody had a great week and is super excited to get after it this weekend. We see Lydia here from the Florida Keys. Ricardo from San Francisco. What's going on? Hector from Houston. How are you? Mario, from Boston, Massachusetts, all the way on the East Coast. We got a couple of people from Massachusetts here. We see Tyler from Indiana, Noah from Anchorage, tons of people representing from all over the United States. Very cool. Jenna from Utah, Will from LA, hanging out with us on a live tonight. Good to see you, sir. Teresa from New York. Chris says he's driving from his new medium-term rental in Chattanooga, Tennessee, back home from Tampa, Florida. Very cool. Congratulations on that. Hopefully it's successful. Would love to hear about that one day. And then we have Myrna from Antioch, local to us. Love it. And then Frank from Philly. Love it. And Gene from Fort Lauderdale. Welcome. Great to have you here. Super excited to get into tonight's topic and have a little chat. Before we start getting into it, I want to just give you a little bit of a heads up of how this goes. First of all, if you guys like this, if you enjoy this, make sure to hit that like button. Also, make sure to subscribe to David Green Real Estate here on YouTube. It helps us out a ton. If this is something that you're enjoying, share it with a friend, share it with your mom, share it with your dad, whoever you know that you think would enjoy learning more about real estate. We want to get the word out as much as we can. So here's what's going to go on. I'm going to put on a little banner here that's going to be ticking at the bottom there, and we're going to be talking about, again, Zillow's housing predictions for 2023 and what you can do to be successful in this market. If you want to come in and hang out with David and I, we would love to chat with you specifically. You could actually come in and come live on the camera and ask your question or share what you're doing, maybe share the deal that you're working on, and we can chat a little bit about that. So here's what you do. You send your name and your message or your question to the number that's sliding here below the screen. The number is 833-777-0309. We would love to have you come in and chat with us. So that being said, David Green, how are you doing, my man?
I just got back from the gym and it was hard. I'll say that right now. You saw me working out in Cabo and it's been a while. So I'm trying to get back into it. Wasn't easy, but I will say that I did better than the last workout by a significant amount. So one of the things I've started doing in my life, I'm not crazy about it. Like Rob Dyrdek, we interviewed him on the podcast, and you guys are going to hear an amazing interview if you're a Rob Dyrdek fan, where he talked about tracking in his life. And that came at the exact same time that I started to pay more attention to how important it is to track what matters to you. Not at like an obsessive compulsive degree, but if it matters, you should be tracking it. So when I would go work out, I would track what I did. Very simple. Okay. Like, what would a shoulder example be? Dumbbell bench press, this much weight for this many reps, this many times. Barbell bench press, same thing. So then I go to the gym and I pull it up and I'm like, okay, last time I did the 55s. Let's see if I'm stronger. I'm going to put 60. And I did 60, the same number of times that I had done the 55. So now that's the bench line. That's the benchmark. Like I don't go below that. Then I went to the bar. Okay. I don't want to go higher than 90 pounds for a shoulder press. So I just did more reps of it. And I did my, I think I did 12, 10, 8 the last time I went in there. And this time I was like, that wasn't hard at all. So I did 12, 12, 12. And then I did another 3 of 10, 10, 10. And so it tracks progress, which feels good, which is why I'm saying, even though the workout was hard and I'm like, oh, I'm not in that good of shape, I'm not that strong, it feels good to know I'm stronger than I was last time. If you're not tracking, your subconscious will remind you of when you were at your peak, when you're at the apex shape you've ever been in, and you'll say, oh, I'm not that strong, I'm not that good. That's what my emotions were telling me. And so then I'm discouraged and I don't want to go to the gym anymore. Now I'm tracking compared to what I did last time. It's actually positive progress. So I'm happy and I'm talking about it. So that's how I'm doing. This is something that Kyle and I are incorporating into our lives, into the lives of our companies, into the lives of the groups that we lead. Tracking is becoming something that is much more important. So we're now encouraging people who want to make more money, save more money, invest in real estate. Are you tracking where your money goes? Do you freaking know where your money goes? Right? I've taken the belief, the approach, the perspective of the world is full of people that want to steal all the money that I have. They want it.
Mm-hmm.
I earned it. They want it. And their job is figure out how to separate me from it. They're going to put a commercial on that makes me think I want that thing. Like if you guys ever do research on why we make the choice of the soda or the energy drink or the candy bar or even healthy foods, the fruit, the vegetables, the coloring of the packaging is wildly important that will make the decision you make, right? And the theory is that you go back to caveman days, if the berry was the brightest, it was probably the most nutritious. So that's the one that we want to go for, right? Like pink, purple, bright colors, yellow. These oftentimes were symbolic of the healthiest fruit, right? You don't want to eat a brown fruit or a black fruit. Like very fruits, like a banana doesn't look good unless it's bright yellow. You don't want it to be black. And so our brains have been trained to believe that means healthy. And marketers literally hack into your biochemistry to figure out how to trick you into spending your money on their thing. And I could go on and on and on about how this works. The idea is that you need to be aware of what you're being sold. When I see a can with like bright colors, instead of saying, ooh, I'll go for that one, I say, isn't it clever that they came up with that kind of coloring? I bet you their product sucks. I bet you that boring one right there, it has to be better. Because otherwise, how could it compete with the bright one? My whole approach of this stuff is much different than what it used to be. So we're tracking our incomes, we're tracking what we spend money on, and then we're asking ourselves, is this worth it? Right? I spent X amount of money on this thing. Did I get enough satisfaction from that to be worth what we did? And it's on the front of our minds because we just got back from Cabo, where you're at an all-inclusive resort. So you don't think about what you're spending money on for anything. You just pay and then you enjoy the time. And I just thought like, oh, it's so easy to just eat too much and drink too much and like do too much of everything when you're not tracking what goes down. What do you think about all that, Kyle?
Well, I want to ask you, I mean, can you share a little bit about our experience at Cabo, or at least your experience? Because a lot of people will go to a big all-inclusive resort at Cabo. They'll eat all the food they want. They'll drink all this, stuff that they want. They'll sit out by the pool and they won't do anything. But like you and I, we were pretty committed to going to the gym, most times twice a day, getting in there, working out. And you were tracking stuff on your phone. I was tracking stuff on my phone, and we were pushing each other the entire time. For you, David, what kind of goes into those types of trips, and why is it important for you to kind of hit that reset button and kind of get the body flowing again and get your mindset going again?
Well, we could do a whole show on that if we wanted. The first thing you got to think about is you're going on a trip, you're going to spend money. Doesn't mean it's bad that you're spending money. Like you want to enjoy your life, but it can take you away from your goals if you're not careful. And we don't just spend money. We also spend calories by eating too much. We spend time by doing the wrong stuff. Like, I guess you're going to spend your money on something. Is it on something that is worth the goals you're hitting? So whenever I take a trip that's going to cost money, it does not matter how wealthy I am or how much money I have in that moment, because wealth comes and it goes. Like Fitness comes and it goes. A lot of things in life. Your relationship can be incredible and then it can be bad. Like things come and go, right? So you never want to lose respect for something that you worked very hard to earn. Like anyone who's saved up money has done a lot to get that money. You don't want to lose your respect for money and just start throwing it all over the place because you don't know how long the money guys are going to let you keep it if you lose respect. I learned a lot of that in sports. You got a 20-point lead. Who here has seen their favorite basketball team build up a 20-point lead and thought, okay, the game should be over, and they take their foot off the gas and the other team comes back and wins? This stuff happens all the time. So when we take a trip that's going to cost money, it's going to cost time, it's going to take me away from other endeavors. The question becomes, how can I make this productive? How can I make this fruitful? Not, am I allowed to go? Can I spend the money or not? Do I have the money or not? So many people will talk themselves out of really amazing experiences because they're thinking either I can't afford it or I just don't want to spend the money on that. Other people will go on experiences and spend tons of money and they'll be stuck in a financial trap for their entire life because all they think about is I have the money, I want to go do it. We like to look at it from a perspective of, if I'm going to spend the money, how do I make it productive? So our goal going into this was to build better relationships with the people that were there, to get inspired by the event to where we come back and we're more productive when we are here, and to create a sort of like environment that helps us produce better. So that part of that's relationship building. Part of that is the type of conversations you're having. A lot of that is learning what other people are doing and letting that change how you go about things. You do that, you win. You get to go have a great time. You get to go enjoy amazing sunsets. You get to go hang out in one of the most fun places ever and eat great food. And you get to leave knowing I am better than when I came. So that's the first part of the trip. The second part has to do with the dangers, which would be eating too much, drinking too much, getting too lazy. Like whatever your vice is when you're on vacation, your guard tends to come down. You're not defending yourself from things that you normally would. So like most people wouldn't have too much to drink, but when you're on vacation and everyone's drinking, it's hot and it's all you can drink, you're like, no, of course I'm going to drink. Like I'm supposed to be drinking. Some people will not spend money on certain things, but when they're on vacation, they'll just dish the money out. It's what you do. That's why Disneyland can get people to pay $12 for a soda or something, right? Another one is food. You may be careful about how much you eat or what type of food you eat, but when you're on vacation, you're not. So you got to go, knowing going into it, you don't want to come back and be depressed because not only is your vacation done, but you're fat and you're hungover and you're full of shame because you didn't stick to the plan when you were there. So
okay, but let me play a little devil's advocate, David, because I hear this a lot. Yeah, but David, I'm on my vacation. I work hard all year long. This is my time to go and splurge. I shouldn't have to track what I'm doing. I should be able to have as much cake as I want, or I should be able to, drink as much as I want, or whatever. What's your response to that?
Yeah, how do I want to put that? It's stupid of you to think that way, but everyone does it, right? I don't want you to feel bad because you're dumb. Like we're all dumb in the same way. I'm trying to think of an example. Like I've often heard people say, I could die tomorrow, so I want to spend the money right now. What if you don't die tomorrow? Now you're gonna be working for the rest of your life. What you're actually doing is sacrificing your future by guaranteeing you're always going to be broke. You're always going to be stressed. You get a flat tire. You don't know what to do. Your quality of life sucks. But your justification for spending money on dumb things, like I used to know people that would go out drinking and like buy the round for their friends and get a round up a bar tab of $140 on a Friday night, but they literally could not afford a flat tire. They were going to the boss of our restaurant and asking for a loan or a paying forward to pay for the flat tire of their car so they could get to work. That's how bad it was. And these people always had the same attitude of I might die tomorrow. Now, you don't want to be a miser and never spend money, but you don't want to make a decision saying I'm on vacation, I want to live a little, whatever you're saying. That is going to make the rest of your life worse when you're done. And that's what I was getting at. If you leave vacation, you got to go back to your regular life. You don't get to be in the fun place and you regret what you did. It can like bury you. Now you're like, I never should go on vacation again. I spent twice what I was supposed to spend. I ate horrible food. Now you're not going to take the vacation. So you want, whenever your little brain starts to say, well, live a little, if it's literally living a little, yes, you should do it. Have a piece of cake or drink a martini. Like it's not bad, but don't drink 9 martinis and then tell yourself, well, I just want to live a little, because then you are miserable the next day and you don't work out when you're on vacation. And now you're eating food to try to feel better. That's that's bad food, and you spiral into a bad place, and you come back from vacation and you're trying to recover from all the bad habits that you built. What Kyle and I did was we committed to working out twice a day while we were there. And I will also say, even though he never would admit it, Kyle kept his commitment and I missed it on the last day. I missed one of the workouts, so I did not keep my commitment there, but we were very close, right? Like every day that we were there, we each worked out twice, once in the morning and once in the evening. And doing that had lots of things that we benefited from. But one of the big ones is when we came back, rather than throwing ourselves off of our goals, that actually put me on a better track, because 2 workouts a day makes 1 workout a day feel easy. When before 1 workout a day felt like I worked out today, I did a good thing. Right now it's I only worked out once today. This was an easy day. That was pretty easy to do. So there is a way to set it up that coming back from vacation can sort of shock you out of the routine that you've been in and put you closer to being in a better one, as opposed to how most people do it, where they come back from vacation and they've erased all the hard work. It's not impossible to lose 4 to 6 months of savings in one vacation where you just spend stupidly because you justify it by saying, well, I just want to live a little.
Yeah, I gotta say, for me, I think I was able to do both. Right, I was able to get those 2 days in, but I was able to live a little. I was able to hang out and have a good time. I was able to swim in the pool, hang out at the poolside, but also do some really cool vision casting for 2023. The nice thing about doing those 2-a-day workouts, which you're right, like we don't normally do that. When I got back into town, I mean, I had like a 12-hour travel day yesterday. It was a long day. Today could have been the easiest day to want to take it off. Didn't get to bed until really late. It's cold. It's overcast. It's dreary here. It's not the warm 70-degree Cabo weather anymore. But I actually was able to get back out and hit the gym twice today. So it gave me the momentum to keep going, despite the ability that I would have had to just I can go ahead and make a ton of excuses.
And it's important to notice that, because that sounds like one day. It's not one day.
Mhm.
That is what we call in basketball a 4-point swing. You want to describe what a 4-point swing is, Kyle?
Yeah, 4-point swing basically is when a player comes up and shoots a 3-pointer, and as he's shooting the 3-pointer, the team that's playing against him, defending him, fouls that shooter, and he hits the
No, that's a
3-pointer.
4-point play. Sorry.
Oh.
4-point swing, when there's like you miss a layup and then the other team comes down and then they score because you missed.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a 4-point swing. Yeah, I thought you meant a 4-point play.
Sorry, what I was getting at is, like, when you make them, like in basketball, let's say that you have a fast break and you miss the layup where you should have got 2 points. That
Yeah.
should have been guaranteed.
Smoked it. Yeah.
And then the rest of your team is in a bad position defensively because they thought that for sure you were going to make the layup and you miss it. Now the other team has a fast break and they come back and they score 2 points on you that they wouldn't have been able to get if you had made your layup. So you didn't just miss 2 points, you missed 4 points, right? Kyle could have come back from vacation, said, I need to take a day off. I'm just so tired. He could have justified that very easily. He wasn't productive that day. He also probably would get in a bad headspace because he didn't work out. He killed the momentum that he had built when he was in Cabo working out on vacation. And now tomorrow he goes in the weekend. He's like, yeah, I'm still tired. I'm just going to have an easy weekend. And now 3 days of not doing anything. Not only did he miss his layup, but he missed his opportunity to stop the other team. Instead, he worked out twice. He kept the momentum going from the vacation he had. He is more likely to work out this weekend, and he had a productive day, meaning tomorrow will be easier to be productive. He didn't eat a bunch of bad food to feel better about himself. He's not going to be thinking, I just need to get drunk tonight so I can get over the guilt that I have. Like, it's so easy. Like, we don't think about momentum. We always think about a decision as just a decision. Not how does this decision make every future decision easier or harder? And the people that build wealth, the people that are fit, the people that are good at anything, they're good because they build momentum. They're actually just trying to build momentum. They're not trying to build wealth. Like, the wealth comes once you've got the momentum built.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just thousands of small decisions that help you build that momentum.
And then those decisions get easier, though. That's the thing, is when you worked out twice a day in Cabo, working out twice a day felt easier for you, right? My workout, like I said, I didn't feel strong, but I pushed through it, and I ended up having a better workout, almost twice as good as the last time that I did shoulders. I was in there for like over an hour and a half, when sometimes I could be done in like 35 minutes if I'm not in shape. So as I pushed it like really hard, which probably wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have been physically active when we were in Cabo. And there's lots of things that work that way. That's why we're bringing this up. Like, it's not different when you're paying off debt, or you're saving money, or you're investing money, or you get a promotion at a job and that builds your confidence, so the next promotion comes easier. So many things in life are all about building momentum.
Yeah, it helps when you have that accountability partner that's doing their tracking, right? For me, I'm like, all right, I don't want David to do the tracking, and then I'm going to miss out on the tracking
Well,
today.
what'd you
So,
say? I mean, you literally said, I don't want you to catch me.
yep, yeah, it's not going to happen. Not
Like,
going to
when
let
you
you
saw me,
catch
we
me.
talked about that one day when we were at the gym. Kyle's there to spot me, and we were talking about how nice it is when you have a spotter. And he's like, yeah, not only when you have an audience, it's easier to give your best. When you're here by yourself, you're like, I don't want to be here. I'm just trying to get through the workout. There's a mindset where you're saying, I just want to check a box, right? I'm supposed to analyze 10 deals today. So I'm just going to get this done as quick as I can because I don't want to be doing it. Well, you don't really learn anything about your industry when you're just trying to analyze 10 deals as fast as you can. It's different when you have a passion in it. When you have an audience and you have someone watching you, you're dipping a little lower on the squats. You're getting that last 1, 2, or maybe even 3 in because you're motivated, because he knows I'm watching and I'm there if he's going to drop the weight. I'm going to be able to help him get through it. Then he's tired. He wants to stop, but I keep going. He's like, well, I'm not going to be the guy that says I'm not going to keep going. So then you push through it and you keep going and you leave with a way better workout, but you didn't lose anything. It's not like you feel bad, like, oh, Dave got a better workout than me. We both got better workouts. 1 + 1 = 3 in this case, right? And that is a thing that we've learned to hack into with different groups. When you're in a community of other people and you see them saving more money than you're saving, or budgeting better than you're budgeting, or spending less money on something that isn't needed, it motivates you to want to do the same. When you're just doing it by yourself, it's like, I just got to get through it. I just got to get through it. Your heart's not really in it. You're not passionate about it. Being involved in a group makes everything so much easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Overall, had a really fun time. Created some good habits for getting back into the swing of it here, and really excited to build off of that momentum. So, speaking of momentum, we should talk a little bit about the momentum of the market. Tonight, we're going to be speaking specifically about an article. I'm going to share my screen here in a second. About Zillow's bold predictions for 2023. This is an article that they just came out with, I think, about a week ago. And we're going to dive right into that right now. And we're going to have David break it down, give a little bit of his analysis on it, and then get to some of your guys' questions here in a little bit as well. So let's jump right into the article. So basically, Zillow came out with their bold predictions for 2023. This is from their actual research department. And this is kind of what they think is going to happen with the state of real estate here in the United States coming up in the next year. So let's jump right into it and talk about it. So their first prediction, number one, is that the Midwest is going to be featured front and center in 2023. So while in the grip of the pandemic, the Sun Belt had a strong pull on American movers, easily meeting last year's forecast for an aggressive rise to housing market temps in 2022. Florida markets dominated the annual appreciation leaderboard in 2022, which we all know, with Tennessee, the Carolinas, and Texas metro areas peppering into the top spots among the 100 largest metros. The heat will stay on in the Sunshine State, to be sure, but as affordability has become the key driver of both supply and demand in the market, places that still feature reasonable prices are already seeing momentum shift their way and should have the healthiest housing markets in 2023. So Zillow's basically coming out and saying, listen, the Midwest tends to have the cheapest prices. That's the most affordable place right now in America. So you're probably going to find more people moving to those areas. Enter the Midwest. Unlike nearly every other region in the United States, prices in the most Midwest metro areas haven't run up to the extremes. Mortgage costs as a share of income are still within healthy sub 30% levels across Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kansas, upstate New York, Iowa, smaller metros in Illinois, which will allow first-time buyers to finally take the plunge. Lower rents and home prices in these areas make it easier to save up for a down payment. Having available houses to choose from is another key component of the healthy market, and the Midwest stands out. Inventory isn't in a massive hole compared to pre-pandemic times, and declines in new listings are smaller than the national average, encouraged by the more consistent demand from buyers. So, David, with that, let's throw it to you. What are your thoughts just on Midwest real estate in general and what that looks like going into 2023?
You know, I gotta say, this might be one of the first times I've ever thought Zillow got it right. Not just halfway right, but like that's a
Yeah.
very, very insightful comment they're making. And it does line up with what I'm seeing in general. So they haven't said the why, and they rarely do. People who look at data tend to just share data, and then the person who's listening has to interpret their own meaning, which is how you can get it wrong. I believe the why is the Midwest homes are priced much lower and they're less sensitive to interest rates. We talked about that on these lives before. That when interest rates double, $1 million home is affected significantly more than a $200,000 house. It's not a even comparison. The rates are not nearly as sensitive when you're at lower priced homes as they are when you get into higher priced homes. And the Midwest is known for having cheaper housing. So it'd be easy to say, oh yeah, houses are cheaper there, so that's where people are going to move to. But it's not necessarily the case, because you don't move to the Midwest uh, just because the housing's cheaper. You got to think about, will my job let me work remote? What kind of a job am I going to get in the Midwest? Is there anything to do in the Midwest? Can I handle the temperature that's in the Midwest? There's a lot more that goes into it. So I think it's probably investors are going to be going that way. And I think that the proportion of people that own homes will be higher in the Midwest than in the higher price markets. What I mean by that is, you may be living in the Bay Area, California, or Southern California, or Manhattan, New York, or Dallas, Texas, and say, I can't buy a house right now. They're just too expensive. I don't want to do it. So you rent instead of buy. But if you're in the Midwest, you're like, that's not really that much more expensive than it was before. I could actually afford to buy a house. It might be cheaper than renting. So of the population in those areas, more people will choose to buy a home versus continuing to rent, which is what you see in expensive areas, as they hope that home prices come down.
So do you think that prices could potentially go up in the Midwest? And if they do you think they'll go up significantly or just a little bit?
I don't. It's much harder for prices to go up in the Midwest because they don't have restricted supply. Like, it's very easy when we look at this from the demand side to say, interest rates go up, that makes house expensive, price come down, and look at it like you're a caveman. But supply plays a bigger role in supply and demand in most cases than demand does, like at least in the housing market, right? Demand for NFTs might be wildly volatile, but demand for housing is not. Everybody needs a house. So demand doesn't really change a lot, but supply does. And if you're in some of the markets I mentioned, there's not a ton of places to build. Like, they've already been built out, and any new homes they build are in inferior locations and positions to stuff that's existing. If you're going to move into a new area, you're going to build all your housing in the best locations first and then go down from there. In the Midwest, they could just build everywhere. There's so much land. There's not a restriction on supply. So
Yeah.
prices never get that high there, because every time housing starts to get more expensive, they just build more of it. The supply expands, and now the prices come back down because there's not like ever going to be a bidding war if they could just build more homes.
Sweet. All right, let's jump into this. Let's keep going. Number 2, buying with friends and family will gain momentum. This one I find very interesting. Soaring housing costs were a popular party conversation topic in 2022. I don't know about that. I don't know if everybody's talking about the home prices going up at parties, but maybe they are. But plots of buying a home with a friend or non-partner relative turned out to be more than idle chatter for a surprising share of folks. I feel like they use a lot of synonyms and just kind of like big words in this article. Anyways,
Hmm.
with housing costs rising far beyond previous affordability norms, those chasing down home ownership are turning to unconventional means of making it pencil out financially, and this should continue in 2023. So, a Zillow survey fielded this spring found that among successful recent home buyers, 18%, nearly 1/5, had purchased along with a friend or a relative who wasn't their spouse or partner, and 19% of prospective homebuyers intended to buy with a friend or relative in the next 12 months. For both groups, affordability and qualifying for a mortgage were cited as the top reasons for buying together, challenges that are now even more acute. Mortgage payments for a typical U.S. home rose from needing 27% of your household income in January to 30% in March to 37% in October, far beyond the 30% threshold where housing becomes a financial burden. So a lot of people now are starting to pool their money with other people, with relatives, non-spouses, non-partners, to be able to just get their foot in the door, no pun intended, and buy the house. So David, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something you're starting to see as well in terms of investors or just home buyers trying to get into the market?
Yeah, I think as the market continues, we're in such a weird place, which is one of the ways I believe that the current environment you're in is artificial when it doesn't make much sense. Because we've got rates going up fast, but we're not seeing prices come down like you would think they would be, which means there's some form of artificial pressure that's being introduced. We're not just letting gravity do what it would normally do. I think people can recognize real estate home prices are not likely to plummet right now. So it's still a relatively attractive option, but rates being high causes enough fear that nobody wants to jump in. So what happens when you're looking at the situation like, I want to do it, but I'm scared? Think about every time in life, Kyle, that you've wanted to do something, but you were scared, or you know someone else that wants to do something, but they're scared. What tends to happen? What kind of choices does that person make, or what do they end up seeking when they're in that position?
Well, they just want like emotional support. They want someone to be there with them. Misery loves company.
You named it, man. The minute if we're scared and we don't want to do it, we run away. If we want to do it and we're not scared, we run at it. If we want to do it and we're scared, we look for someone else. That's why I think we're seeing all these partners. People want to invest in real estate, but they don't want to do it on their own. It makes no objective sense why you would get a partner. It actually complicates everything and makes it worse. But emotionally, it feels safer. And I think that's why you're seeing so many partnerships happening in this market we're in right now.
Let's keep going. Number 3, the affordability crisis will stabilize, if not improve. Affordability, the share of median income required to pay the housing costs, is the biggest challenge for buyers, sellers, and renters today. We just talked about that. Monthly mortgage costs have doubled since 2019, driven by pandemic-era price hikes, and to an even greater degree by rapid mortgage rate growth this year. High mortgage rates are not only pushing buyers to the sidelines, they're tanking new inventory as homeowners decide to hang on to their current houses and low rates, right? They're not wanting to sell their house and then go buy another house, but have to get a big old higher interest rate. Renters are not exempt from the madness. Rents have grown faster than wages, making it harder to save up for a down payment. The average hourly wage has grown 23% over the past 5 years, but rents are up 37% during that time after a pandemic era surge. Affordability, Zillow says, will continue to be the driving force in the housing market in 2023, but there's a decent chance it will improve. At the very least, the market should stabilize, making it possible for households to budget and plan for housing decisions coming up in the months and years ahead. So, Zillow expects that national home values will remain relatively flat next year and even fall in the most affordability challenged markets. Mortgage rates, highly impactful to the mortgage payment, are seeing some recent and encouraging progresses downward as inflation and labor market tightness show small signs of easing, enough to lead some to suggest that the Federal Reserve may ease its aggressive monetary contraction. If we've actually turned the corner on inflation, that should continue. Volatility in mortgage rates could continue through early 2023. However, an ongoing challenge for those who saw their ability to qualify for the same mortgage change on a monthly or even weekly basis this summer. Rent growth should hew closer to historical norms next year as well. Annual growth has come down quickly from a massive peak of 17.1% in February to 9.6% year over year by October. Rents actually fell during the month of October, the first time in 2 years, a signal of a return to regular seasonal patterns. Meanwhile, builders are working to increase the supply of rental properties at a record pace. So, what are your thoughts on affordability just going into 2023, David? Do you kind of see the same thing? Do you see things starting to stabilize, especially in the more affordable markets?
No, I think we have a temporary slowdown that's caused prices from going up as fast as they were. I think they ideally would be coming down more than they are. They're kind of like trickling down, but not dropping down
Yeah.
like they should be for how fast they went up. I think that's clearly a lack of supply. I think there's enough people that still want to buy a house that we're not going to see this wave of inventory like we saw in 2000 and 2010 when nobody wanted to own a home. I think the government believes they can stop rising asset prices by keeping interest rates high. And I think you can temporarily do that. But at a certain point, those are going to have to come back down. And when they do, they're not going to stop the prices from going up again. So I look at this like you've got an affordability window. I don't want to tell people that how to time it because I don't know how long the window's open for. I never do. I know at a certain point rates will come back down and they'll have to come back down because if we go into a recession, that's what the government does. And I know we're in a recession now. I mean, like a more serious recession. They go lower interest rates to get people spending money again. So they will do that. I don't know at what point they'll make the decision that the recession is serious enough to do it. And I don't know who's going to be in office at the time that's making those calls. So I can't say, wait 9 months and then buy the house, which is what everyone wants. So instead, what I'm saying is buy in the best locations because that's going to have the highest upside when it turns around. Buy the best neighborhoods, buy the best asset you can, and then take a survival approach until then. I just got to stay alive. I don't have to be thriving. I don't need the best return ever. I don't need to be making a 40% cash on cash return. I need to be able to hold this property until we turn. And when we turn, I'm going to make a bunch of money and then I can go convert that into cash flow or do whatever I want to do.
All right, let's keep it going. Number 4, a surge in first-time landlords in 2023. So the record low mortgage rates of 2020 and 2021 spurred lots of investment in a second house, especially from mom and pop investors getting their second property. As rent growth continues its aggressive pace, many of these second homes have an even better potential to yield regular rental income above mortgage payment fixed with record low rates. The potential for regular income, bearish expectations for stock markets in 2023, and the big pullback from home buyers due to higher mortgage rates may reinforce the incentive to hold on to those investment properties, especially in areas like the Midwest Sun Belt, where household formation and housing demand is stronger. Rent should rise faster than home values over the next year, and many will choose to rent out their property. So, what are your thoughts on that in terms of potentially seeing more first-time landlords in 2023?
Yeah, I guess their argument is kind of like people are going to say it's too expensive to own a home, so I'm going to rent it out to try to take the edge off. Is that where they're going with that?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think the number of people that would do that is going to be statistically insignificant. And it's something that it makes sense from a logic standpoint. And so they'll put it out there and say this could happen. And we'll go, yeah, that sounds right. I don't know how many people are actually willing to be a landlord and going to move out of their own home. Just no one thinks that way. They don't think people would literally lose their house to foreclosure before they would think about renting it out. Not because they're dumb, but because they're ignorant. They don't realize that's an option that you can do it, or they think real estate property management is so hard that it can't happen. So I don't think that's going to play a very big role in housing values at all.
And then the last one, number 5, new construction strength will be in rentals. So despite a clear effort to pull back on permits and starts in a single family construction, the sheer number of units currently under construction after the pandemic construction boom will mean continued rolling deliveries to the market even as demand pulls back. This expected temporary glut in new homes available are driving price reductions for new construction and potentially in the existing home market too, which otherwise will continue to experience low inventories as existing homeowners hold on to their homes and record low mortgage rates. So to mitigate the bloat in builders' portfolios of finished new homes, builders will encourage buyers with their lower prices, but more impactfully to the affordability of that mortgage payment to offer. I'm seeing this all the time with new construction homes right now. They're offering to buy points and actually lower the mortgage rates of the new construction buyers. Builders of multifamily units are, in contrast, much more bullish. The number of multifamily units to start construction each month has fairly steadily increased, reaching 8% up from pre-pandemic in October. Elevated multifamily permits also point to a strong vote of confidence in continued demand for rental units despite looming recession fears. This confidence will also encourage more construction of build-for-rent homes, as many would-be homeowners will need to continue renting into the later life stages if now unable to qualify and move forward with the purchase of their own. So, interestingly enough, we're seeing a lot of incentives, lower prices on new build, new construction homes. But then we're also, Zillow is also saying, hey, we're also seeing an increase in the building of multifamily units as well.
Yeah. And I think as I've read several studies that talk about something that isn't being talked about a lot. They focus on the savings rate of the average American is diminishing and the amount of debt they're taking on is going up. So even though the quality of life isn't changing for people, their overall financial position is being affected pretty significantly as we're heading into like the beginning stages of a recession that could be a nasty recession. With that being the case, you will see less people having down payments to buy homes and less people feeling confident about buying homes, which means the people that are going to buy them are the ones that are comfortable with them, like investors. So we'll keep buying them, and the new construction people are going to be building them for us because we're the ones comfortable buying the houses and renting them out. Not so much the people who want to buy a house for themselves and they don't understand the asset class.
Okay. So overall, based on this article, David, what would you rate Zillow's prediction of 2023? They say it's a bold prediction.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bold at all. That sounds like, like reasonably intelligent. The only thing on there that it really caught my eye that I thought was good journalism on their behalf was people moving into the Midwest, or not even moving, but more homes being bought in that area. I do agree with that. The rest of it is not very impactful in the market as a whole, but it does give you something to chew on, which is what most people who are looking for articles like this are hoping for.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's jump in. We actually have a viewer here that wants to jump in and ask us a question specifically about his scenario going into 2023. So we're going to bring Anthony live onto the call. Anthony, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Great. Thanks for joining us. So do you mind telling us a little bit where are you located?
Sure. I'm in Troy, New York, so about 20 minutes outside of Albany in upstate New York.
Okay, terrific. So I got your question that you sent, but would you mind for everybody here, let us know what your question is and how we can help?
Sure. So I'm in the process of closing on a HELOC. It's going to be $150,000. I don't know if I should use that, combine that with my savings, and then buy a house and burr it, or if I should use that $150,000 as multiple down payments across a few different properties. My goal is to maximize my cash flow.
Okay. Walk me through the logic. Like, how do you see these options as far as several properties or one property that's a burr?
So for me, I guess I'm unfamiliar with if I would need to season that money in my savings account if I was going to use it as a down payment, because that might get a little tricky as far as just kind of the logistics behind that. Whereas a burr would be more of a simpler process.
That's true. So have you talked to anyone from the one brokerage yet?
Yeah, I was speaking with Christian actually. Awesome. No, Ricardo. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say you talked to Christian.
Yeah.
You got what's the name for the president? What's like what do they call him? Not Air Force One, but like they have a nickname for when you're talking to the president.
Oh, like
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Like Eagle One or something like that. I was like, man, I don't know how you pulled that off. You got the red phone ringing in the office.
Yeah.
You got Christian on the other end. That's funny. All right. So the first thing, yes, you do need to ask the question of how long does the money need to season, right? It will be less likely. It will be less of an issue on a burr than it would be if you just put money down on several properties, because you're going to have to use a conventional loan most likely to buy those properties. That's who wants to see the seasoning. If you're going to do a burr, you're probably going to use a bridge product or a hard money loan or like some of the creative stuff that we have to get the property. They're not conventional lenders, so they don't have those strict regulations of how long the money has to be seasoned and where did it come from. Like a lot of those ones don't care. Like, does he have the money? Okay, we're going to give you a 12-month loan and you're going to refinance it when you're done. So if that's a concern, that does sort of put you in the position where you want to burr. Another thing I'd be thinking about would be if you take that 150 and you buy 3 houses and you put 50 grand down on each one, you're now done. Not only are you out of money, but you're out of money that you don't even have. You borrowed money and ran out of what you borrowed, right? So you've got 2 problems. You got no money and now you have to pay that money back. And your pet's heads are falling off. You're in you got no food, you got no booze, your pet's heads are falling off, right? If you do the Burr method and it works out, you will get more of that 150 back. So you didn't spend the whole wad. You got like a little bit left that you can go into on the next deal. That's one thing I'd say. How many properties do you have right now?
4.
Okay. So you're not a complete noob then. Are they, what areas are they in?
They're all in Troy, so upstate New York. 4 duplexes.
Why did I think Troy was in Michigan? Is there
There's
a
a
Troy,
Troy,
in
Michigan as well.
You know how many freaking states share city names? Like, did I tell you guys the
Too many.
story of the property that I was buying in Nashville for like 1.35 million? And it was Nashville, Indiana, that I didn't realize until I was like 2 weeks into the escrow. There's a lot of that goes on. So, all right, you got 4, and I'm assuming the market you're buying into is going to be the same one with the new properties.
Right.
All right. In that case, I'm not as worried about you scaling as if you didn't have anything. So I'm more open to you using the HELOC. I'd still like to see you Burr, and not because I wrote the book Burr, but because I don't want to see you run out of money. All right. And here's the other, there's a lot of reasons that Burr is superior that I can argue and defend, but none of those are what motivates me to do it or teach it. What motivates me to teach it is that it forces you to be the best investor you can. You can't take shortcuts. If you buy a turnkey property and put 25% down, it's not like it's automatically a bad deal, but you could sure cut a lot of corners and get away with it and just say, well, the cash on cash return is good, so that's it. You're lazy, okay? When you're burring, you got to buy it right. You can make your money when you buy. You got to put effort into finding the best deal you can, all right? Then you got to have a vision for the property. How am I going to add value to this sucker? Am I going to make it bigger? Am I going to make it better? Am I going to make it prettier? Am I going to add units to it? Right? So not only did you have to buy it right, but now you got to have a vision for how to improve it. Then you got to go execute that vision through a rehab, which should add value to the property. Then after that, you finally get to rent it. Then on the refinance, you have a chance to get more of your money back. That's where you found out what you did. When you just buy a turnkey house, you could suck and you could get away with sucking and no one will ever know. Right? You might buy it wrong. You might not have a vision for the property. It wasn't in the best location. You didn't add any value to it. You just like cut corners, right? And then you run out of the ability to repeat. If you're investing in real estate the right way, you don't ever want to stop. You want to keep going. You don't want to get good at something and then have no money right around the time you finally figured it out. And now you got to quit, right? So that's one of the reasons I lean more towards Burr. Another reason is if you're buying a turnkey property, it's like you got a small target. You got to hit exactly in that target. Okay. Something goes wrong. Like we heard a story in Cabo from one of the guys we went with. Listen to this. This dude bought a house in a terrible neighborhood, but he was hoping it would cash on cash well in like a Midwest area. It turns out his septic system had never been connected to the city or a well. The pipes ran out of the ground into his backyard, went under the fence of the property into a vacant field behind his house, and was dumping sewage for 70 years right into the ground. Yeah. And they were like, well, wouldn't that come up in the home inspection? And he made a good point. He's like, no, they flush the toilet. They turn the stuff on. They run the sink. It all works well. Like there's no way they knew where that was going. A home inspector isn't going to catch that. Right? So he has a massively significant problem on this property that he could not have anticipated. At least, I mean, the only way is if you had paid a plumber to run because there's a few people out there that are like, actually, there is a way, like you could get the sewer lateral inspected and you could get your plumbing line, and that is better to do, right? But he wouldn't have known to do something like that. And when I'm getting that done, I'm not doing it from the perspective of where is it draining. I'm doing it from the perspective of is there like tree branches growing through my sewer liner or something like that. Okay, so there's things that go wrong that you can't anticipate is what I'm getting at. When your target is tiny, it could take you out of the game, man. Like you buy 3 houses, 2 of them, it doesn't go well. All your money's gone. 1 property is mediocre. The other 2 are bad and your life sucks. When you Burr, you give yourself a bigger target. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like the rehab went over, the rents weren't as much as I thought. The appraisal came in lower than I had hoped, but my ideal scenario where I got to take out 100% of my money didn't happen. So as a consolation, I left 10% of the money in the house. That's way better than putting 25% down on a turnkey property, right? So it forces you to be better. It gives you a bigger target, which is more forgiving for making mistakes. And then the last piece is the one everyone thinks about. You get your capital back. So now you can keep buying,
Again,
right? You're also talking about properties in an area that are not going to appreciate a ton. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not bad, so to speak. It's definitely not good though. So if it naturally appreciates, this is just my perspective. I'm more likely to dump money into a property that's not BRRRR, just turnkey, buy it, if I believe that area is going to appreciate more than other areas. Okay. So like I just bought 3 in South Florida that they're not, well, are they BRRRRs? No, they're not BRRRRs. One of them is like half of a BRRRR. It's got like a 2 ADUs in the back that are going to be redone, but the goal is not to refinance it. So it's not a BRRRR. But I'm happy to buy because I bought them below market value, and that area is growing so fast. It's going to keep appreciating, right? In 2 years and 3 years, I could refinance. I don't have to do it after the rehab like in a normal BRRRR scenario. If I'm buying in a place that's not expecting to get a lot of appreciation or more than average, now I definitely want it to have some form of value add on a BRRRR. And because Troy's not a market that's going to be known for appreciation, you got to create your own appreciation through the rehab. The market's not going to give you equity as likely, so you got to create that equity. You go buy 3 turnkey properties, you're giving yourself a small target, you're going to run out of money, you're going to owe money on the money that you borrowed that you then ran out of. And it's if anything goes wrong, like the market's not going to bail you out. Like I'm buying in Miami and areas around Miami. If I wait a couple years, I'll get bailed out, right? You make those mistakes with yours, you might not recover from it ever. It might be like, I got to go back to saving money, and you're out of the game for 5 years until you can save up enough money. So if you had told me that you were investing in a fast growth market somewhere in Texas, Knoxville, like some of these areas, like maybe like some parts in Alabama or the Carolinas where everyone's moving to, I'd be like, yeah, man, like you could go ahead and just buy those because no one knows for sure, but odds are they're going to appreciate quite a bit. You're going to make up for the things you do wrong. But when you're in those static environments where the prices don't move very much, you have to buy them below market value, and you have to have a plan to add value to them, or you never get that equity back out of the deal. Right. Okay, I just talked for a long time. What do you think in hearing all that?
No, that was awesome. That's actually exactly what I needed to hear. Because we had a lot of similar thoughts, but you saying it definitely reinforced my my thinking. So I appreciate it.
Do you have any other questions for us?
I think that was it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks for that,
Absolutely.
Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony. See ya.
See ya.
By the way, along those lines, we do have a little bit of information here for you. I did a quick search. There are like 26 states in the United States that basically have the name Troy in it. So there are a lot of Troys along the United States. More than I thought there were. I thought there maybe be like 3 or 4. There's actually a Troy, California, David. If you had to guess, would that be Northern California or Southern California, given that you're a California boy?
Oh, okay. Let's walk through this topic that you probably just wanted a quick answer on, and none of our listeners really care about hearing. If I was to guess if it was in Southern, I feel like Troy in my head for some reason stands out as a rural area. I don't know why. It also makes you think of the movie Troy, which was like Greece, and it was very temperate weather and nice. And so that makes it sound like Southern California, but I don't know where this rural thing is coming from. Maybe I just know a lot of cowboys named Troy. And that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I just know California enough that a lot of the Southern California cities are some form of Hispanic influence. They're like San something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or something that has to do with like niceness, like palm trees or something. And Troy doesn't sound nice at all. It sounds like a man in overalls. So I'm going to go with it would be somewhere in Northern or Central California, but not near the coast. It's going to be like east, maybe in like the Sierra Nevadas or super north, like the Redding type area. I could see something in that area.
Wow, very good. Yeah, so it is basically kind of northeast-ish. It's definitely right off of Highway 80 getting up towards Tahoe. So yeah, right up there in the Sierra Nevada. Very well done.
Don't know how I did that, but to be honest with you, I don't know where a lot of the stuff in my head comes from. It's just as much a mystery as it is to everybody else.
Yes, absolutely. It's actually in the same county that I live, interestingly enough. So, and I think it's a former railroad town. So maybe, I don't know if it's still technically a town or not, but
what's smaller than a town? What do you call something that's smaller than a town?
Well, I always tried to figure this out because we don't really have this on the West Coast, like what a township is. There's like lots of town. If anybody knows what a township is, put that in. I see that all the time, like on the East Coast, but I've never really seen that here.
Yeah, you thinking it's like a mini town, like
yeah,
townette, a township.
Yeah, towns and cities.
Village,
All right.
I
Well,
suppose, but smaller than a town.
it could be maybe. Yeah, maybe it's more rural and doesn't have like the official, I don't know, the official government setting and all that kind of stuff.
Like if your area has a frog race, it's probably a township or a
There you
village,
go.
right? Like we got
Or
some of
what
those
about
areas. Troy
like
might have that, right? They all take their fastest frogs and they line them up in this on at a race and they like poke it in the butt and they try to make it hop faster than the other frogs.
Yeah, there's this tiny little lake that I take my son to. It's like 2 hours from here, in a small, tiny town up in the mountains. And they have a fishing derby every single year. And it's at the name of the lake is Lake Walton. So the way I always remember it makes me think of Luke Walton, the basketball player and the coach. So it's Lake Walton.
Luke and Lake. Okay, I see the connection there.
Yeah, yeah, just one letter difference.
Whatever.
There.
What's old Luke doing these days?
Well, he got fired from the Kings not too long ago. I don't know if he's still coaching. He's probably an assistant coach somewhere, I would have to guess.
All right. Should we get to Devin?
Let's get to Devin.
Speaking of basketball players, Devin Bryant, brother of the late Kobe Bryant, is here to talk with us about Mamba mentality and competitive nature.
Absolutely. Man,
Where are you, man? How cold is it wherever you are that you are indoors? And I literally watched you putting on your coat as you're waiting to get in.
Well, I'm in my basement, and it's pretty chilly here. I'm in Utah.
Okay. So you're house hacking or living in someone else's house hack, which means you're a hardcore person doing that in Utah because it's freezing.
Yes, sir. So I currently I have this townhome. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath townhome, which should do fairly well as a rental based on what I've looked up on rental.
I hope so,
prices
because
and
you're going to need to afford some heat.
Yes. So I'm looking to move out of this place, house hack with my brother-in-law and his family. So we would need something that's either a 5-bedroom house, like I'm thinking like a basement apartment and upper like 2 compartments separate that can be rented out. So we have some sort of separation, or like a multiple unit property with 2 to 3 bedrooms per unit. And so I have $100,000 in a HELOC. Currently, my total HELOC is $170,000. I use some of that to finish up the basement here and some other things. Our monthly expense can be about $1,500 each, or $3,000 a month, basically. And so I'm wondering give maybe some insight on type of property I should look into. And then, do you think it's best? They currently have a lease that goes through October, November of next year. So it costs $3,000 to break the lease, which would allow us to move in earlier, basically. So whether that be worth doing that or just wait until the lease is over, and then basically what type of property I should kind of be looking for, and when do you think the best time might be to buy?
You're looking to buy in Utah?
Yes.
Utah
County.
What's your days on market like in the areas that you're interested in?
Right now, I think it's probably 60 to 90 days, depending on the
Okay. What was
property.
it like same time last year?
Things were flying off. Like they were
like 10, 12 days?
Yes. Yeah, okay. It was very hot.
So that tells me that the majority of your buyer pool that you're competing with is not feeling very confident about that area. Have you seen prices coming down much?
I would say they've dropped. So like a 5-bedroom house last year was going for over 500,000. It's probably 430-ish.
That's pretty significant. Yeah.
50 to 80,000, depending on the.
It's like almost 20%, probably like 15 to 20%. Mm-hmm. That's more than other markets. What do people do for work in this area?
A lot of it is it's tech. It's all.
I feel like we're playing Guess Who right now. Does the person wear glasses? So it's tech jobs. That's really good. Do you know, this is a stretch that you would, but do you know anything about the health of the companies that are making up that market?
I'm pretty sure they're fairly healthy. I don't know specifically, but a lot of people have been moving here recently.
And what are rents like?
So a 3-bed, 2-bath, like my townhome would probably be anywhere between 1,600 and 2,000 a month.
Okay.
Um,
That's a 3-bedroom.
yes,
So what's 1 bedroom going to rent for?
I think probably around 1,000 or so, and then like
Oh,
a
wow.
2-bed
No,
is
not a 1-bedroom apartment. Sorry,
Oh.
a bedroom in a house.
probably like anywhere between 400 to 700.
Okay, that's still
About
pretty
5.
healthy here. Do you have any exposure to tech workers or people in the tech field that you could leverage to finding roommates to rent a room?
Possibly, yes.
I like the idea for where you're at. I'm guessing you're still in kind of like a scrappy phase of your career. You're not looking to just throw money all over the place. And
Correct, yeah.
okay. I like you looking for a 5-bedroom property or a 4-bedroom property with as many square feet as you can get in these really good areas that also has a lot of parking and at least 3 bathrooms or more, right? And then after you find all that, looking for something that has value add opportunity in the sense of converting a garage, converting a basement, has an ADU in the back, something where you can add more units. And I want to see you get a big, beautiful home that has an ADU and a garage conversion or something that you can rent those out to like some tech worker making good money or some college kid, if there's a college nearby who is going to rent this out and their parents are going to pay their rent and they don't want their kids living in the, like the dorms. They don't want them in Sodom and Gomorrah. So they're going to pay more than market rent to get their kids somewhere safe and then take in the main house and rent it out by the bedroom. Like, I think you could do very well for yourself in a market like this where the majority of your tenant base is probably going to be, I don't want to say good people, but like people don't have to worry about. They're not going to be like problematic, transient, bouncing from one thing to the next. Like they're probably, if they're working in tech, they've got a career, or if they're going to school, they have a strong sense of like work ethic where you're likely to be able to make some money here. And if you get enough options, like we're saying, different ADUs, different rooms to rent, now you can justify buying into like the best neighborhoods out there, which is what you really want to do when you're afraid the market could go down. Right. I don't want to just tell you to go buy a house because I don't know if the market's going to go down. But I know if you have a lot of places to rent, if it goes down, you're okay because you're bringing in so much income from all these different opportunities. And I know when it comes back up, like if you're going to take a risk buying a house right now, which we're all doing if we're buying in a market that could go down, there's more risk. Right. Make sure the upside mitigates that. I don't want anyone buying in bad neighborhoods right now. It's just a terrible time to do it unless like the last person, Mr. Zotto, you're doing it with a value add opportunity. But all that does is mitigate risk. You see what I'm getting at? If you're buying $100,000 house, but you're all in for 70 or 80,000, if it goes down, you've mitigated the risk. You got to have more like that. So for you, you're going to mitigate risk in 2 ways. You're going to buy into the best neighborhood ever, so you have a higher upside when it turns around, and you're going to decrease the chance of not being able to make your payment by buying something that has a lot of units and a lot of bedrooms. Now, you may have to go into this with some creativity. That's why I said at least 3 bathrooms. More is better, because you can't put 7 people in a house with 1.5 bathrooms. It won't work, right? And I mentioned the parking. You got to have enough parking for them. But if you can find a 3,200 square foot house that only has 4 bedrooms, it probably has a dining room that could be turned into 2 more bedrooms. It probably has a den that could be turned into a bedroom there. There's probably a lot of room to take that property and add bedrooms. You just got to have enough bathrooms to support it, which is very difficult to do if the plumbing infrastructure is not already in place.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. How do you feel? Are you cold or your teeth chattering?
I am freezing in this basement. It just snowed last night, and it's man.
This is a dedicated man right here that is willing to come into the freezing cold basement like Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, wandering into the north, living with the wildlings to pursue your goal.
Go ahead, Devin. Yeah, do you have a follow-up question to that?
I was just gonna kind of summarize. So, do you think it's worth based on what I was looking for, our monthly budget around $3,000 for just me and my brother-in-law moving in together, that puts us around $400,000. Do you think it's better to look for a higher priced property that might have like an ADU that I can rent out on the side and take a little bit more risk on that, or try to stick within that budget that I've kind of found?
Well, tell me how you came up with the budget that
just what we each can afford. So basically our whole purpose of house hacking together will be obviously to save as much money as we can. And so $1,500 a month is basically, if we go too much over that, we're not really going to be, it's not going to be much beneficial than we're both at right now. They're renting an apartment that's a 2-bedroom, 1,000 square feet, for like $1,700 a month. And then I'm in my townhome that I own. That's like $1,200 a month.
Well, if you buy a property like the one I was describing, you probably end up making money, especially if you're buying it in like the 500 to 600 range. If you're saying they were 500 and they're saying 430 and you get a really big, nice one, and you can put 5 or 6 bedrooms in the property plus an ADU or even potentially 2, that's going to be making you money at that point. So I don't know that, like, you're not reducing risk by looking for a smaller or a cheaper house as much as it seems like you would be. You're reducing risk by adding as much revenue as you can get. And that's going to come from spending more on the property. You just want it to be in proportion, right? If, like, one of the things that I would do is if I was in your position, and I have been with our clients many, many times, let's say, have you been quoted an interest rate by chance?
Not recently.
All right.
I think it's like 6.5% or around there right now.
Oh, that's really good. So let's say that you can borrow $100,000 more at 6.5% interest. So you were going to buy a $500,000 house, but you're going to go for a $600,000 house, or I guess then there's a down payment of whatever. So it's not exactly like, maybe you buy a $640,000 house, which is much nicer than you thought, right?
Right.
Look at how much it costs to borrow the extra money. That's going to be about $632 at 6.5%. Then your property taxes are going to be slightly higher because the house is going to be worth more, right? So let's like bump that up to like 675 or something like that. Okay. The question, you're not going to save money by getting the cheaper house. You're not going to save 675. The question is, if I go and I buy one at 640 instead of 500, can I bring in more than $675 a month of revenue?
Right.
And if it's got 3 more bedrooms or a whole nother unit that's going to rent for $1,200, it's an obvious answer that the bigger, more expensive property is the safer bet.
Okay. That makes sense.
So try to look at it from that perspective.
Will do, for sure.
All right, Devin, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
I was wondering if he was going to say Mamba out.
He should have. By the way, you guys, if you want to come on live here to chat with David and myself, text the number below, 833-777-0309. And if we have time, if we feel like it can fit the topic of what we're chatting about tonight, we'll try to get you here live on camera to get your question asked and have a conversation with David. So next up is Michael Orculo. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you great. What's going on?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Not much. First of all, thanks for having me on, guys. I've been following Dave and Kyle for a while, so it's awesome to be on here. And finding this channel was like a stroke of luck because I'm always following the Bigger Pockets. So thanks, guys, for everything you do. First off, my question is, I have 2 properties that I inherited in 2010. They're both rentals, and they need full-on renovation. So I'm currently in the process of getting an arm on my current dwelling home to do renovation on both. So I'm not sure if I should just sell both properties or take an arm off my current home and then do renovation on both the rentals, or take an arm out of my home and then try and buy more real estate properties. So more investment properties. So I'm not sure.
So
what
is the
to
problem
do.
that you're kind of cash strapped?
I did put one of the houses on the market
to fix up the 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said you put one on the market.
Yes. Yeah, I put one of the rentals on the market in August, and it just kept going down and down and down. So we took it off the market last week. And so now I guess we're pivoting and trying to take money out of my current home right here so that we can renovate it, because everyone kept saying it just needs a lot of work.
And for people listening, I'm not trying to interrupt you there, Michael. We have a little bit of a delay. I noticed after I stop talking, you probably hear it about 3 or 4 seconds after. So we might accidentally step on each other or interrupt, but it's not on purpose. All right. So can I ask, how did you end up in the situation where you have 2 rentals that need rehabs, but not enough money?
My mother passed away in 2010, so that's how I inherited them. And then I didn't know Bigger Pockets or any of that. I just
Yeah.
found you guys out about a year ago. So from there, I've been, I've been trying to do things correctly,
Yeah.
to say the least.
So have
So
you been renting them at all, or have you just been holding them since 2010 with nothing being done?
they've been rented this entire time.
But
And
now you're recognizing I
we were
need to
trying
put
to
some
sell
money
them.
into them to continue to rent them.
Correct.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you should sell unless you have to. This is not a good market to be selling in. And you found out the hard way, it sounds like, by putting it on the market and
course.
watching the value just kept coming, right? So I think you made the good move by cutting bait. Can you rent them at a discounted price in their current condition?
They have been renting at a discounted price in general. So I guess the reason for the reno is because they're both built in like the 90s. So we're trying to just upgrade it so we can push for more rent after the renovation and then weather the storm so that when interest rates go down, in theory, prices will go back up.
Yeah.
And that's another question I had regarding home prices. Will they, people are saying it might take 5 or 6 years for prices to get back up if we're entering a recession. You know, as you guys know, real estate is cyclical. So yeah, I'm not sure what to do.
I'm not going to comment on how long before prices come back up because I don't know. My gut tells me it won't be 5 to 6 years. I think it'll be sooner, but I really don't know. So the way I'm going to give advice is not planning on when things are going to turn around, but working off the information we have. So I don't think right now is the best time to utilize capital for improving properties that you don't have to. I'd rather see you keep that powder dry to see if better deals come along if the market drops. Okay, so if you spend the money on the rehab and you can't buy more real estate, there's nothing you can do. If you don't spend the money on the rehab and you can't buy more real estate because prices don't come down, you didn't lose anything. You could just do the rehab later when the market's going up. Right? The only rush to do your rehab is that you're trying to get higher rents, but you don't need higher rents right now. It'd just be nice if you could get them. Okay. So I'd rather see you wait, continue to rent them out at discounted prices, wait to see if you're going to get a market collapse or like a significant decrease in value where you can pick up something really, really nice. And if it never happens, if the prices turn around, they start going up and you couldn't buy anything, then go rehab them then. You didn't actually lose anything. But there is a potential loss if you rehab them now and you don't have the money in case the market does drop.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty much my only question because
I got another creative solution I'd be looking
it's
at
been
if I was
racking
you.
my brain what to do.
What if I don't know that you could pull this off, but what if you found a tenant who works in construction or is very handy and likes the house, and let's say normally market rent is 2,000 and you've been renting it out for 1,600, and you say, hey, what if I gave you guys rent of 1,000, but you guys upgraded the house, or maybe you keep the rent at 1,600, but they do work to fix up the house they're living in and you give them a rent break as well as pay for the materials. Okay. So you come up with a solution where the people that you're renting to are handy and don't mind it. Cause people that are like that, they're not, you make me go fix a fence on my weekend, I'm going to be in a bad mood. You take people that like hammering and nails and saws and they don't mind, they were going to do that anyways. Right. So they do the work and you pay for the materials and they get the better house, but they still get the decreased rent based on when they don't have to pay the full 2,000, right? If you could find some kind of a solution like that and you're not dumping 50 grand into fixing it all up at one time and it's not sitting vacant, you're collecting rent and the tenants are doing the work for you and you make it a win for them. I really like that scenario for where you're at.
Okay. Something to think about. Do you have any suggestions where I could find a contractor that would be?
I don't even know they need to be a contractor.
6 a.m. at Lowe's or something like that.
Yeah, just a person that does that kind of work. That could be the case,
guy.
right? Or or in the advertisement. Again, I don't want to say this because I want to give legal advice, and someone out there might say you're not supposed to. I don't know for sure, but if you're advertising the house for rent, put something on there like handy people preferred or would love a tenant who has construction skills or something. And then when you're going through the interview process with them, Like, are you going to be using a management company, or are you going to be doing it yourself?
Currently, I've been using a management company, but after listening to you guys, I'm going to do it myself after, moving forward. So
Yeah, so maybe just make that one of the questions that you ask when you're going through it is like, do you guys have a construction background? Or I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm being stereotypical, but like the people that are good at that stuff, usually you can tell who they are. They drive a certain kind of car or truck, they dress a certain way, they're like moving stuff around, like, oh, like the cabinet, the hinge is coming off, and they notice it right off the bat. Like, keep an eye out for those kind of tenants and just ask like, hey guys, the rent would be significantly more if it was fixed up. Are you open to like doing some of the work to make the house nicer that you want to live in, and I'll buy the materials for you? And dude, you asked the right person that, and they're gonna jump on it. Like, I was hoping you'd ask.
Okay. Okay. Actually, that brought up another question. So the realtor that listed my home, she's really good. I'm from the Las Vegas area, and she's really good in this area. Through everything that we went through, she offered to kind of like show me how to do the renovation, but she would do it for like a 15% fee of the total cost of the renovation. And she'd show me, like how to do discounted deals, how to find good materials for cheap, and basically shadow what she would do. Kind of like, she didn't say a mentorship, but I would shadow everything she would do. So I thought that was a pretty good opportunity. What do you think about something like that?
And she wants to get 50% of what?
15% of the total amount of the renovation.
And she's going to manage the renovation for you.
Yeah, she'd basically be like the contractor, and then I would just see everything she's doing. She would show me how to do everything.
I can't give advice on that because I don't know the person. If assuming they're a good person and you're not putting yourself
Gotcha.
at risk because of like if she's the contractor, but she's not a licensed contractor, and she goes and finds subs to do the work, but they're not bonded, and she's not licensed, and she's uninsured, and something goes wrong, she could easily back out and be like, hey, I got nothing to do with it. And like, you've already paid her. And I'm not trying to paint a doom scenario, because she might not be that kind of person at all. That's the risk you're taking if you let a real estate agent who doesn't have a contractor's license kind of manage the project. But if you don't think that's going to happen, if you feel good about it, or if she does have a license, then I don't think 15% itself is necessarily like too high.
Okay. Yeah, because she herself has 55 doors, so she kind of has a good idea of what she's doing, and has a good pulse of what the Las Vegas market is doing. So I felt like it's a really good opportunity, and so that's why I'm thinking of actually doing the renovation through her, and then learn from that, and then do the other home. But then I also have to think about what you said as well. So that it's it's
maybe just ask her, like, how are you going to handle a situation where someone gets hurt on the job or something goes wrong? Like, are you licensed and bonded? If she says no, she should have some kind of like, but I do my work under this person's license, or like there should be. If she doesn't have a plan at all, I'd be nervous. If she very quickly gives you a reply that sounds like she's done it before, I'd feel a little bit better.
Okay, I'll ask her that. So how do you plan to handle any future injury, like if there's an injury on the job or something to that effect?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
See ya. We had Lath that was going to join us, but he dropped off. But while we wait for him to reconnect here, David, I was doing a little bit of research and on what you were talking in terms of the code names for certain presidents. And it's actually the Secret Service that gives out the code name to the U.S. presidents, the first ladies, and other prominent locations. And they all have different ones. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of curious, David, I'm going to put you to the test here real quick. I'm going to say the code name, and you tell me which president it is within the last 5 presidents. So I'm not going to go back to like George Washington or, something crazy like that. So let's see if you can guess. All right. Who was called Eagle?
There was an eagle.
Yes.
I knew it. I'm going to go with George Bush.
HW or George W?
That's a good question, actually.
I'll tell you, it's actually neither. That was Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton. That was my next guess, but
okay. Yep. Bill Clinton was Eagle. Hillary was evergreen. Chelsea was energy.
That's funny.
Can you tell me who mogul was?
That's gotta be Donald Trump.
100%.
Okay.
Yep. And Melania was muse. Donald Trump Jr. was mountaineer. I guess they all have the same letter that I just noticed too.
Yeah. Evergreen Eagle Energy.
Yeah. Who was Tumblr, but then also later changed to Trailblazer?
I mean, the obvious answer there is Obama, but I'm trying to figure out why they would have called him a Tumblr originally. I'm
No,
gonna shoot with no.
it's George W.
Tumblr makes sense for him, right?
Yes.
Tumblr, stumbler. But I don't get why he would have been Trailblazer. He literally followed in his dad's footsteps. You think they were mocking him when they called him that?
Yeah, he could be, unless he was, trailblazing, I don't know, something else. But yeah, that makes sense. And then last one, can you tell me? Okay, I'm going to give you two. Who was Renegade?
Renegade. None of our presidents have been renegades. That's funny. Geez, we're running out. That's got to be Reagan.
Not Reagan. Oh, that would make sense because it has the R in his name. He was
And
Rawhide.
he was an actor, and I was like, well, he bucked the system, and he wasn't a politician, so he was a renegade.
Yep. So Obama was Renegade.
Okay, that seems like the most inaccurate code name.
Yeah, I don't know how they come. I don't.
He's
actually
like
know
such
how
a
they
good
come up with it.
politician. He like talks like a politician. He had been a politician for forever. How do they come up with that?
And then George H.W. was Timberwolf.
Wouldn't have guessed that, but that's a cool name.
Yeah, it's the old high school mascot there. Couple of questions that we actually had in the chat. I believe it was this one here. Girdar asked, he says, I know you recommend a mix of cash flow and appreciation and portfolio. How much and how long would you bleed in waiting for appreciation?
Yeah. First off, when I say cash flow and appreciation, that doesn't mean bleeding, right? Bleeding sort of insinuates you're losing significant amount of money. I don't know that for most people you have to lose significant amounts of money in order to do well. So I don't want to say bleeding, but negative, right? How long would I endure that? That depends on the wealth you have coming in from other things. So theoretically, you could buy let's say I said, Kyle, here's a chance for $5 million. You can buy this Malibu mansion, and it's going to appraise right now for $10 million, but you're going to come out of pocket $4,000 a month, every single month to own this thing. But not only are you buying it with more than $500,000, like $5 million in equity, it's going to go up $1 million a year. It's going to go up 10% a year, right? So 10 million, 11 million, 12 million, 13 million, 14 million, 15 million. So in 5 years, it's going to have the 5 million you bought it out, and it's got to have 5 million of additional equity, but you will have lost $4,000 a month. So that comes down to a little under $50,000 a year. Okay. How long would you bleed? How long would you hold on to that house before you finally said, okay, I got to get rid of it?
Well, I would easily exchange 40.
Kyle, we might have lost you, man.
Did you lose me?
It froze. You said I would easily exchange 40, and that was the last thing we heard.
Oh, I would easily bleed the 48K a year if it means I'm going to make $1 million a year.
Plus the 5 million you started off with, right? Now, this is an extreme example, but how long would you bleed that $48,000 a year?
I think I would probably do it in perpetuity if I was making that much every single year in equity.
Now, and the other thing we haven't said is the rents are probably going to go up too, right? So you lost $48,000 the first year, but the next year maybe you only lost $44,000. Then you only lost $36,000 in it. It gets better till eventually it will cash flow. All right. You would easily do it, but what if you only earned $35,000 a year at your job?
That'd be a lot harder to do.
That's the point. So when we ask the question of how long would you lose money, you have to ask yourself, how long can you afford to lose money? And I say lose money. You're not actually losing money. You're losing cash flow, but you're gaining wealth in other ways. We don't always call it money, but it is. It's just if the money's in your bank account, we call it cash flow. And if the money's in the property, we call it equity. It's the same thing. So that's the question you got to ask is how long would you be willing to, or how long could you afford to lose that money in order to build wealth and delay gratification? And the other component to this that never gets talked about, because we're always looking for real estate to be the magic pill that bails us out, is if I did go to you, Kyle, and you made 35 grand a year, and I said, you got a chance to buy this place with 5 million in equity. It's going to go up $1 million a year, but you're going to lose 48 grand. I bet what would happen is you'd start asking yourself the question, how do I make more money so I can take this deal on? Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. We don't ask the right questions. We say, well, how do I make money through real estate? Not how do I make more money in life so I can buy real estate? But many of us are in a position where we could be making $1 million a year in equity if we made more money at our jobs and we invested it wisely and we bought the right kind of real estate. Or maybe not $1 million, but maybe we could be making 100,000, but we're not because we don't have the money right now. And why don't we have the money right now? Because we don't make enough at our jobs or our opportunities. Why don't we do that? Because we don't want to be out of our comfort zone. And so it comes down to the fact that many of us could be buying this hypothetical mansion that I just described, but we're not because it's not right in front of our nose.
Good feedback.
Thank you.
Love
Did we
that.
ever get back our guest that we lost?
No, I don't know where Lath went. He kind of fell out there. We
He
have
has
one
a
other
cool
person.
name. Lath is a pretty cool name.
Yeah. It's like faith with an L, right?
Lath makes me think of more like a aggressive, like laser or like lathe. That's like cutting through something. I don't know where I'm getting that from.
Let's see. Carrie did a talking about the township. She said township is part of the legal description included in the survey and title. So there you go.
It's a very good answer. And looking at Carrie's picture on YouTube, she looks like the kind of person that would give an answer just like that. Carrie, by any chance, do you work in title and escrow or some form of real estate?
It's gotta be some form of real estate.
You're getting that same vibe, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like we probably should have a fact check section of every show where the things that we're trying to figure out, we just go back in and we actually fact check it for all the viewers so they know exactly the truth around the situation.
Like what is the etymology, the origin of the name of Lath? Is this Nordic? Carrie's an agent. Way to go, Carrie. Thanks
Very
for
cool.
making me look smart.
Thanks. Love it.
Like, where do you think Lath comes from? What country names their kids Lath? Where's Thor from? Asgard? Do you think he's Asgardian?
Asgard. So the Lath origin meaning, the name Lath is a boy's name meaning lion or wet. Lath is a cross-cultural boy's name that's strong. The top 1,000 in the UK, meaning in Arabic, this round, as a Scottish name, it derives from the name of the river Lath in Edinburgh.
So it's got lions and it's got Scottishness, which I'm half quarter Scottish. No, I'm half Scottish actually. My mother was born in Scotland.
You're half? Yeah, you were.
Yeah, forgot
your mom's fully Scottish.
She's full
right?
Scottish, yeah. So it has two things that I like. No wonder I like the name of Lath. We're sorry that we missed you. All right. I would say rather than rambling on, waiting for Lath to get back in, we could probably call it. I'm going to ask you, Kyle, do you have any wrap-up thoughts about tonight's YouTube Live?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in 2023. We've already seen a couple adjustments in interest rates. I'm already getting more calls from buyers that are interested in getting back into the market, right? And so I have a feeling that we're going to start to see more activity, especially right after the holidays. So I'm excited for a lot of the people that are getting back in. And there's actually a lot of really good deals, especially in the Sacramento market that I'm seeing nearly every day. So from a real estate agent perspective, but then also an investing perspective, I'm pretty hopeful about it.
If somebody is watching this and they want to buy or sell in the Sacramento area, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So the best way would be you can reach out directly to me. My name, Kyle Renke. I'm on Instagram. That's a great way to get in touch with me. Or you can send out an email to us directly, which is info@davidgreen24.com. And we can get you connected with one of our agents. It doesn't have to just be Sacramento, by the way. I still get this every single week. People are like, I didn't know there was a David Green team in Southern California. There is. We pretty much have the entire state of California covered. So if you want to get in touch, you want to learn about buying, selling, or investing, make sure you reach out to us, info@davidgreen24.com.
Thank you. And what if they want to join a group of other people that are on the same journey as them? They want accountability partners, whether that's through working out or tracking their finances or saving money or building wealth or anything like that.
Absolutely. This is something I'm really excited about. And for those of you that aren't a part of the David Green text letter, we actually had a little bit of a teaser in there for David's mastermind. But we have a group of great and amazing people that we're focusing on tracking. We're focusing on increasing our income. We're focusing on reducing our expenses. We're focusing on putting ourselves in the best position to invest and build wealth. And we do that at the davidgreen24.com/mastermind. You can go in there, you can fill out an application, you can join. We have calls every Monday and every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Those are live calls. I'm on those calls. I'm running them. I'm leading them. And we're having lots of conversations about what we can do as a group to hold each other accountable, to figure out ways to make more money, to figure out ways to save more money, to increase your savings rate. But then in addition to that, we bring in industry experts that talk about the same. So it's a really cool group, and it's definitely a thriving community.
Yeah, keep an eye out because it's going to be rebranded. It's going to be called a new name, and it's going to be very cool. We're focusing on how to protect wealth and build wealth that stands the test of time, not just how to be a flash in the pan. If you have been living under a rock and you haven't heard about Sam Bankman-Fried and crypto and NFTs and all the wealth that people thought that they had that has vanished in a second, you're well aware that it is easy to lose money when the economy turns around. There's a way to do this that may take a little bit longer while you're building it, like a fortress would, but it will stand the test of time versus doing it very quickly and getting it off the ground fast, like a treehouse, and it collapses as soon as something goes wrong. So if you're interested in building wealth that will last and creating a life that will last, no matter what happens in the economy, check us out. Go to davidgreen24.com/mastermind, see what we got going on, and see if it's for you before prices go up. All right, Kyle, think we're good to call it?
Good to call it. Just a reminder, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys all here next Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Have a great weekend. See ya.